and welcome this month's RC Racing, coming here from the hustle and bustle of the most famous street in Pattaya. It's Walking Street, which perhaps presents the best and the worst that Thailand has to offer, but we have just the best in the world of rallycross. It's the final of the 1/8 World Championship just up the road in RC Powerboat, and let's have a look at the finalists. And what better place to start than right at the front of the grid with ATSUSHI HARA, the only man ever to be world champion in the two biggest classes of RC. That's 1/8 rallycross and of course 1/10 touring car. Let's meet him. ATSUSHI HARA, you are the current world champion. This event is taking place in your adopted homeland. Well, you must be the favourite.
This time I think it's way more better preparing compared to the 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I win in North Carolina. But this time, I can make more. I can feel more better than 2 years ago for preparing, driving, everything. And also, I have mechanic Mira, more better relationship than 2 years ago. So this time, like, just pretty much more feeling than 2 years ago.
Now, this track is unique. It's so much jumps, bumps, it's enormous. How difficult is it to learn this track?
I think it's very, very difficult as compared to any track, because of most difficult point is the track has angle, not straight. You know, there's many up and down, and also whole the track have an angle, and it's very difficult to see from the driver's stand, because driver's stand maybe not high enough, so it's very low view. So the car sometimes disappear some spot. And also sometimes I cannot see where my car is now. So I think layout actually not so much difficult, but just difficult view from a driver's stand. So that's why people make many mistakes.
Well, we've seen how tough and grueling this track is. Let's join John Hindhaugh with your grid for the World Championship final.
A dozen drivers have qualified for the World Championship finals. Top 5 from each of the semi-finals, and the 2 fastest losers. The first semi was quicker, so you'll see at the bottom end of the grid it's more from the second semi-final. In 12th position from the USA on the low seat with the Nova Rossi motor is Adam Drake. The Spaniard Robert Pattaya in 11th position, also with Nova Rossi power on the AE chassis. Jon Neumann on the LRP from Germany in 10th place. First of the qualifiers from the first set of semi-finalists, the Australian Kyle McBride on the Mugen with the Ninja motor, and it's another Mugen in 8th position for the Frenchman Renaud SAVOYA with the RB power. In 7th position, Jeremy Coates, one of a massive amount of United States drivers there with the Hobau and the Verks combination. In the top 6, Ryan Cavallari, relatively impressive I thought in the semi-finals, maybe holding back just a little bit. Another American with the AE and the Orion. In 5th position, Billy Easton is the second best qualifier from the second semi-final. The Serpent and RB combination working well for the American. And the top 4, Ryan Mayfield, again from America, AE and Reedy. The top 3, Jared Tebow, best qualifier from the second semi-final. Kyosho and Orion combination for him. His countryman Cody King is in 2nd position with exactly the same setup and equipment, and on pole position, are we surprised at this? Not at all. ATSUSHI HARA, Hot Bodies and OS Power. That's how they line up, and we're ready to go racing for the world final. And we're off and running in the World Championship final. ATSUSHI HARA from pole position around the banking for the first time. The usual scramble into the infield hairpin, but it's relatively clean, and HARA has got away. That's a very good start from the pole man, and the main thing is he gets a very big tank slapper there, and he'd come under pressure straight away, and in fact loses the lead straight away. Just as I was about to say, he'd managed to avoid all the potential first lap problems, and there he gets mired in trouble and drops down to 4th position. Nick Daman.
Cracking start there, but he has kind of thrown it away with just a bit of over-exuberance. Cody King is now leading from Ryan Mayfield. I think Jeremy Coates sneaked through from further down the grid.
Yeah, and that all started off with a little bit too much power going over the infield whoops. Big tank slapper, lost momentum going over the big jumps, and from there on, ATSUSHI HARA, our pole man, was going backwards.
Cody King is settled well. He's got Ryan Mayfield. Mayfield wasn't able to go full speed in the semis because he had a front suspension problem. That's now fixed. But the favourite is still the guy in 3rd, Jared Tebow, the man who set all the pace all for the weekend, apart from the semi-final team, which was just slower, but he still won it. So perhaps he was holding himself back, John.
Battle for the lead then, Cody King. There he goes, Ryan Mayfield, the two Americans setting the pace with the young Jared Thibault. He has been very impressive, Thibault in third place. And again, a little mistake there. It looked like the right front just caught one of the craters that are forming, and there's the biggest problem, and that is a massive, massive problem. Look at the distance that has cost the chasing pack.
Yeah, right, Mayfield there basically landed on Cody King, and that really didn't help him at all. He spun well. It's interesting. We've got going through now. We have Thibault. Thibault's now dropped into third behind Jeremy Courts. It's a good run from Courts up, but he's now been hunted down by Thibault.
And he was in 7th on the grid, don't forget. And look at this battle that is going on. And again, just what were we seeing in the semi-finals, Nick? This is such a difficult track. It's not a new track to most of these guys, but the surface has been an issue this weekend. When I say an issue, it's been a challenge. Certainly, the unprecedented steps taken after qualifying to make some repairs before the semi-finals and subsequently, obviously, this final. And it has still, such is the power nowadays of these off-road machines, it is still just not able to stand the pressure that's being put on by these fantastic machines, and of course the kind of grip that we're getting from tyres nowadays.
Well, they've got about 3.5 horsepower through four-wheel drives, and the machines weigh about 5 to 6 kilograms. The interesting thing is, of course, what you can't see is how three-dimensional this track is. There is a massive rise and fall from the bottom of the circuit, which is where they go round the timing loop and to come into the pits, to the top of the circuit at the end of the high-speed straight. They swoop round. But the track, as you say, has been just pummeled by 180 cars over the course of 7 days. And the repairs, which were great first thing this morning, but after 2 days of finals, the repairs themselves are causing problems because they're different levels.
Yeah. And we've seen, haven't we, just the way that the surface has reacted in different ways. We mentioned the temperature changes, that's been an issue as well. You wouldn't think that the dirt would have those kind of issues that we normally talk about when we're talking about tarmac racing, Nick, about, you know, the temperature, the ambient and the track temperature. We talk about that all the time. Normally that's not an issue on dirt, but with the extreme temperatures here and the hot baking sun and then possibly a sprinkle of rain or some cloud, that really has meant that everyone, and particularly the tyre technicians, have had to be on their mettle.
Well, they have a number of different designs of tyres, and often 3 compounds. You have a soft and medium and hard. It's a bit like Formula 1 with the same spike design as Thibault there, sweeps through in front of Cody King.
That's a tremendous manoeuvre. That is a very, very confident young man, Jared Thibault on the Kyosho with the Orion motor, and this young man has really burst onto the scene in the last few months. He was, and I'm not sure he was very well fancied when he came to this event.
In fairness, he's been coming forward. He's of course one of the guys who's come from electric racing. He's an ex-world champion in electric off-road. He's been very, very strong in the last 6 months. So he's looked particularly good. He's probably going to go particularly quickly because his wife's about to give birth back in America. So he needs to get this race over and done with so he can get on the plane.
Well, it is a timed race, of course, so good he might be, but I'm not sure that he actually affect that dimension. But at the moment, he's showing his mettle, and look at the calibre of drivers, Nick, that he's got behind him.
He's got King and Mayfield. It's very, very tight. Now, people who've seen these sort of off-road meetings before on RC racing will know that sometimes a guy gets a shot and just disappears by a lap and a half, and that's certainly happened in these telephone meetings. But that's the top 3, what, by a second? If that,
maybe 15, 20. Very short RC buggy lengths, and there's the challenge again for the lead. These big jumps on the far side of the circuit from us are actually a pretty good overtaking manoeuvre. The technical whoops, if you like, in the middle, and these hairpins, and you'll notice there that these infield hairpins have very odd cambers on them, and you've got to be very patient in trying to get the power down. Yes, it's four-wheel drive, but get the power on a little bit too early and you're just going to wash the front of the buggy out and you will lose time.
Well, we've just seen 3 of the best drivers do, I would say, a lap at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
It is quite remarkable.
Oh, the lead is gone!
That was a prime example. He knew he was being covered. He put an extra bit of throttle. He tried to steal a couple of extra yards, and you can't do it here.
Yeah.
It's a circuit where you've got to respect it every lap.
He's actually been quite lucky there, Nick, because yes, he's lost the lead, but that's all he's lost. You know, he's maybe lost half a second or a second, but he's still sitting there, as you can see, in second place at the moment, and that kind of impact, I know these machines are pretty robust, but that kind of impact with the scenery, particularly with the barriers on the outside. You drag a wheel on that. Oh, and there's the leader gone again. Well, there you go. You see, in the space of a lap and a half, he's got the lead back, but he was looking not to do damage.
It is. You are going. The guys are probably hitting at this point here about 50 miles an hour. They're not as fast as electric cars, obviously, because they're carrying more weight and they are higher centre of gravity, but they do have a turn of speed. But it's all about grip, it's all about acceleration. But at this track, it's all about suspension control and picking your way through the bumps. And Ryan Mayfield, after a poor start, is benefiting from this, and he's hunting down Tebow. And Tebow, you know, on the Kyo Show, we've got Mayfield on the Associated. They're different cars. Cody King's also another Kyo Show driver, but our poleman disappeared, ATSUSHI HARA, but he did that in semi as well, so we could still see HARA coming back into this. Yeah,
not in the picture at the moment. It's the 3 Americans that are leading, and this is tremendous stuff. Really can't take your eyes on it. I'd like to sort of follow back down through the field and see who's doing what to whom, but when you've got... Oh, there's the first pit stop.
It's Tebow's going first, and he's interesting because he's been running his engine long. You can get between 6 to 10 minutes from a tank full, but it's a trade-off. The longer you go, the leaner you have to run, less power, and if you run very long and very lean, you run the risk of cutting towards the end. We'll be right back to A-Final action in just a moment, but first, how do you improve on a car that's already won the World Championship? We chatted to HB designer Josh Alton to find out.
Try to work on making the platform user-friendly, easy maintenance, and basically we came up with the D8.
It's very easy to work on. It's very it's got adjustments, but if you make an adjustment and it's wrong, it doesn't wreck the car. We have quite a bit of confidence in knowing what we can change. It's very consistent. It's just how much you want out of it, how much steering. If you want a little push, you can put into it whatever you want very, very easily.
US has the supercross style traction with the big jumps and corners, and you know it's a jump corner setup, and you have to, you know, a lot of timing is involved. The racing drivetrains actually take more of a beating. You know, you listen to these guys, they really don't let off when they land off of jumps. You know, going through bumps or through a whoop section, they're on the throttle. They're not really off the throttle.
The D8's really, really tough. Like other cars are braking where ours isn't. I think our plastic is really, really good.
If I can't break it, it's usually pretty good, bottom line. Basically, the HARA edition is all of our little hop-ups throughout the last 2 years. We took those, we pretty much put it all in the kit. That's pretty much what all the racers wanted.
Definitely more grip, more stable, more steering, easier to jumps. The new parts combination with a new setup, also like def oil setup, shock set, have kind of big difference compared to 2 years ago. We tried initially to come up with a kit that would be consumer friendly, meaning it's not too expensive, but yet you can still win with it. And then as we came up with hop-ups to lighten the car or to, you know, maybe a little bit different geometry, we realized, hey, this is really good. Like this track have a long time to keep in the air, so also easier to control.
Well, back to A-Final action now, and we rejoin it right in the middle of the first round of pit stops.
So he has blinked first. Oh, and again a problem for the buggy that was in the lead.
Mayfield letting King through there, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, he returns the compliment. Not quite as much ground lost there by Cody King.
But of course this is ground they're losing whilst Tebow's carrying on.
You see, now that's a very good point, and what we need to be seeing is the lap times of Jared Tebow on the Kyosho, who has made his first stop, and this is endurance racing, make no doubt about this. You've got to get those tactics right, and here come the two leaders into the pits at the same time, Nick.
There's a battle now. In fact, unfortunately, Mayfield was slightly overshot his position. He's got a bit of fumble there, you see, by his
that's
by his
disastrous.
Teammate. So he's lost about 3 seconds, but you see, it's exactly the same as a full-size full-on stop. If you just go a yard across and they have to push you back, you lose that time. It's all about that coordination. These guys practice again and again and again, but in the heat of the final, it can still go wrong.
Pressure was definitely on there, and you know, that getting in and out of the pits. Now, he's got to keep his cool here because he doesn't want to compound that error in the pits by losing more time out on the dirt.
And it's left Tebow in the lead. Tebow, here we go, and he
took the early stop, Nick, and he
didn't make a mistake.
Came out in clear air, and again, just like the tactics in full-size racing, that was nicely planned. And look at the lead he's got now, from the top three being all over each other. A very small flannel would have covered the lot of them.
And HARA, you see, he managed to catch up there with the stagger unwind. He's running his OS engine very long all weekend, or week, sorry. And he's now about 9 seconds off the lead, but he had caught up from his earlier problems, so we may well see HARA, the current world champion, coming into play later in this very, very long and very tactical final.
There must be an element in this race, Nick, of pacing yourself, because in terms of concentration, I know the guys aren't running around and they're not feeling the G-force that a driver sitting in a car would do, but nevertheless the concentration levels must be tiring. I've
done longer races. The longest I've ever done is 25 minutes, and it is really hard. You actually you lock up in a position, you begin to get pain through your legs. These guys are practices, they've done hour practices, but it's still, the fact is that it is so tight. This is the World Championship final, and Mayfield takes the lead superbly from Thibaut there.
Now, that just goes to show the kind of levels of concentration we were talking about. Slid down the inside on one of the infield hairpins, clean as you like, absolutely no problem with that. And Mayfield now leads again as he heads off onto the whoops.
And the other thing to remember is that these guys have one set of tyres for an hour final, and they're going to come and they're going to go out as what compound they've chosen, what design is going to, at certain parts of the day, you're going to get into a sweet spot this hour final.
Is there a danger that you can actually either use up your tyres, overheat your tyres, and maybe take some of the tread blocks off them?
Absolutely. I mean, if you choose a compound that's not right, either too soft, strangely even too hard, John, because it'll spin, you will lose grip. Now, all these cars will lose grip during the course of the final, but it's going to be the levels they do. We saw drop-offs of about 3.5 seconds a lap during the semi-final, which was half the length this one. It's very likely they've chosen a harder compound to make up for that double length, but, you know, it's all nip and tuck, and it is part of that way up in your tactics.
And again, it comes back to that classic endurance conundrum about taking it easy. If you've got a hard compound tyre, there's no point in horsing it early on, because you are just going to spin it up and you'll wear it out anyway, and then you lose any benefit later on in the race.
Exactly, and the same thing with the soft compound. You need to nurse it to get the benefit of the grip as you go through the whole of the hour final. These guys have got a lot of experience. They've not got experience this track in this condition, and don't forget, because there's different patches of track, and you know, you spin it on a bit of the edge of the concrete, you can take 3 or 4 blocks off straight there.
At the moment, we're settling down into a reasonable rhythm. Checking the timing screen for the rundown.
Well, it's currently Mayfield from Thibaut, from King, from HARA, so those top 4 from the grid, they're not quite in grid order, but they are the guys who are setting the pace, and they are quite easily stretching away from the rest of the field now. We've settled into the core part of the race, John.
And interestingly, not so much lappery going on. That underlines, okay, the rest of the field, the other 8 of the dozen in the final, are not challenging the leaders, but by the same token, they're not so slow that they're getting lapped every 3 or 4 laps. This is the cream of the crop.
They're probably only dropping a second a lap, which means on a 50-second lap, they're probably going to get lapped 2 or 3 times on pace. I mean, obviously, we've already seen a couple of cars drop out. We've lost RENAUD SAVOYA, the 3-time European champion, with an engine issue. Some will drop out, but on pace, you don't expect to lap very often in the A final at all.
This is very interesting indeed, and again we see how frustrating is that. You drag back up to the leader and you've just paced yourself gently, and then a minuscule error, and literally that is turning in maybe 2 or 3 inches too early.
And it's interesting, Mayfield's had a problem in a corner a couple of seconds back, and I notice he's now taking it differently. He's learning as he goes. He's learned that corner's a problem. It doesn't look as quick, but if you actually go over it cleanly, you can give away that third or half a second because you haven't made the mistake which cost you 2 or 3, and it's all about that tactics. Thibaut now has got a long way to make. I think Thibaut's actually pitted off camera. He's now a good 10 seconds back, and he's got HARA and King catching him up.
Well, yeah, that would be right, because he was the first of the pit stoppers in the first round, and a little mistake there, and he's lost a position. Now he's got a pit stop in his pocket here to the driver that's just gone past him, but he does not. Oh dear me, and that is a disaster for Thibaut. Was that HARA?
In the air.
It was HARA,
yes. In the air. That's very unlucky. Thibaut got the run wrong into those 3 corners, and decided, rather than jump, he decided to brake and then go for it. And in doing it, he just lost enough space, and HARA tagged him, which is really bad luck for both of them, because that's cost them both dear in time. And
given that Thibaut has pitted early, exactly what he doesn't need. Remember, he benefited from his pit stop strategy.
HARA's gone in out of sequence.
Oh, wow, this is... Oh, stop-go. Was that a stop-go penalty?
He's got a stop-go for that.
For the collision in the air.
That's very unlucky, because I think that was Thibaut not taking off properly.
Well, that is going to be controversial. There'll be some talk about that. That was, as you saw it, absolutely a stop-go penalty for ATSUSHI HARA, the man who was on pole position, for what could almost be described as incidental contact. Not how the race stewards saw it though. That could well harm his chances later on. Right, we're coming into the bulk of the pit stops now. And that is Ryan Mayfield making his stop. That looks nice and clean. So another round of pit stops to come up. We'll expect to see pretty much the whole field coming in. And here they come, and we'll be back with more action from the World Finals next.